Hi. So, one of my biggest pet peeves when it comes to the topic of introversion and extroversion is when people say there's no such thing as an introvert or an extrovert. They pretty much say everybody's introverted and extroverted, it just depends on the situation. And to a degree, I get what they're saying, what people are trying to say when they say that. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very myopic way of analyzing the fundamental differences between introverts and extroverts, or lack of analyzing, I should say. When it comes to introverts and extroverts, I don't know. When people say there's no such thing as an introvert or extrovert, it's like they're just trying to lump everyone into the same category and basically say everyone's the same. No different than when you hear people say things like, well, everybody's racist. Everybody's racist. It's like, come on, saying that's like saying there's no difference between Tim Weiss and David Duke. When it comes to introversion and extroversion, you can make the argument that it's a spectrum, right? I can understand a person looking at it like that because it is, but at the end of the day, a person is definitely going to fall into one side over the other. Even though it's a spectrum, people definitely fall closer to one end. So I just want to break it down like this. If you've ever said things like, wow, it's so quiet in here, 9 times out of 10, you're probably an extrovert. Why? Because introverts typically don't say things like that. You ever hear people say things like, "Oh my God, that why are you so quiet?" If you've ever asked someone that, 9 times out of 10, you're an extrovert, unless that person being quiet, like if being quiet is out of their character, then I can see an introvert asking a person, "Hey, you're kind of quiet. What's up?" But typically, if you don't even know a person and it's quiet in the room and you just randomly say, "Why is it so quiet in here?" Like silence bothers you. That yeah, you're probably an extrovert. Silence doesn't bother most introverts. I remember watching prison documentary, and not just prison documentaries, but supposedly there have been studies on how prolonged isolation affects the human brain or the mind. And they say when humans are isolated and they're not able to interact with other people, they go insane. And speaking of the prison documentaries, that this has been shown to be a case with prisoners and stuff like that. Prisoners losing their minds, they're eating their own feces and crazy stuff like that after being left in solitary confinement for long periods of time. But I want to say this: you got to be careful with these so-called studies and stuff because everything in life has a flip side. Everything has an opposite, including the whole introverted versus extroverted thing. Everything in life has an opposite, you know. But with regard to the effects prolonged isolation has on the human brain, everybody doesn't lose their mind if they're isolated for prolonged periods of time. Some people, sure, yeah. And if you're one of these people, like you just go crazy, 9 times out of 10, you're an extrovert, like an extreme extrovert. Because there are also people who are thrown into solitary confinement and they're just fine. They do just fine. They get out, and some people are like, man, it was peaceful in there. They want to go back and stuff. I always said to myself, I was like, man, I look at some of these prison documentaries and I see or hear these guys say things like, man, I got to get back on general population. I got to get back on the main line, as they say. And the thing that has always ran across my mind is, why the hell would you want to be in amongst general population? I don't get it. Like if somebody threw me into solitary confinement, that would be my goal, to be honest with you. Here, okay, already you're in a space, you're in an environment where they're the worst of the worst as far as society. Around those people, like I always say, man, if I was locked up or something, I'd purposely try to do something just to get thrown in solitary. I mean, what the hell? I want to be around a bunch of like literal, like I guess animals. Pretty much, that's how people refer to these people as. There's the criminals everywhere. So why the hell would I even want to be around that? Yeah, throw me in solitary. That'd be the best. That'd be paradise for me. That's a huge difference between introverts and extroverts. Like extroverts, they need it. They need that social, even if it's in an environment where they're surrounded by complete, criminals and stuff. They still would rather be around criminals and socially interact with criminals as opposed to being left alone for prolonged periods of time. So that's a huge difference right there. Extroverts, they need social interaction no matter what, no matter how bad, no matter how toxic. Extroverts, they're the types. They'll purposely start a fight, an argument, just to be socially stimulated, just to get that social stimulation. They'll purposely say something that they don't even really believe themselves just to get the talking going, just to get some action. They need that from other people. The people that love being social, being around people and stuff, they're the main ones cheating on people, gossiping about people, and they do it because it feeds their soul. It gives them energy. It's fun to them, I guess. Drama, chaos, and all that stuff. It's fun to them. They need that. Zapping them of their energy would mean basically throwing them into solitary confinement, putting them in a situation where they can't talk to people, where they can't gossip. Then you'll see that productivity decrease. Then you'll see all of the life in them totally just get sucked right out of them. And introverts is the opposite. When they're by themselves, they're more productive. They're more creative. You get my point. So that's a huge difference. That's like one of the main differences right there between introverts and extroverts. And again, of course, it's a spectrum, no doubt. It definitely isn't a spectrum. And of course, there are times when introverts can come across as extroverts. And that's a big misconception, is that introverts just like never talk. And if they do talk, that means, oh, they're an extrovert. No, I mean, people also know how to, it's kind of like how an extroverted person that's always talking and stuff, yeah, they know how to shut the fuck up and keep their, not say anything. They know how to do that. That doesn't mean they're talking all the time, and inversely, that doesn't mean an introvert never talks at all. An introvert can come across as very extroverted depending on the situation. Like if you have a job interview or something, or if you're in a situation where it's probably best to kind of liven up a bit and appear to be super extroverted and outgoing and stuff. Yeah, you have some introverts that are capable of doing that, and some not so much. And some are bad at it, but it just depends. Everyone's different. Whereas you have, again, it goes back to that spectrum. And then you have cases where extroverts, of course, there will be times when they're quiet, right? And but then you have some cases where some extroverts, they don't know how to shut the fuck up. I think we've all met that one person that just does not know how to keep their mouth shut. I remember, man, I remember I was in trade school. There's one guy in my class. I tell you, this guy would not shut the fuck up. Talk, motor mouth motherfucker. Did not know how to shut the fuck up at all. This guy was a hardcore extrovert. You know what's crazy? One time he said he classified himself as an introvert. And the fact that he classified himself as an introvert, it ties back into the main point of this video. As far as people trying to act like there's no such thing as an introvert or an extrovert, and as well as people basically misclassifying themselves, mislabeling themselves as extroverts or introverts and vice versa, whatnot. This guy is not a fucking introvert. He ain't. He even went on to say, oh man, I have anxiety and stuff too. Like, dude, introverts don't act like you. People with anxiety don't act like this guy. If you're the type of person, you're always, what this guy said one time? He said, man, if I went to college, and he's talking about himself, if he went to college, he would have joined a fraternity, because he was talking to me one day. He asked, So what you doing in college? You did do any fraternity shit? Like, fuck no, I didn't join no goddamn fraternity. Do I look like a frat boy type doing? You ask me a stupid ass question like that. Like and this is around the time this guy should have. I don't know. I feel like, some people are just clueless, man. There's some people just clueless. I felt like he should have been around me because he really don't know me, but he should have been around me long enough to know the fraternity shit just ain't my vibe. And the fact that he would ask me a question like that. But the fact that he said he would have joined a fraternity, that's all I need to know as far as what he really is, as far as being an introvert or an extrovert. Most introverts, I would assume that they wouldn't really be on the college fraternity type stuff. And if you're a woman, the sorority type stuff. Maybe there are some exceptions and stuff, but the way he was talking about, like, man, I really wanted to do, like, dude, you're not an introvert, buddy. You ain't, dude. Or if you're the type of person, you're like, man, you constantly have to be out on the town. Like, you love to go to the clubs. You love meeting new people. These are extrovert type of things. These are not the type of things introverts say. Like, man, you thrive on just talking to new people. Like, even if there's no reason to talk to a person, you'll just strike up a conversation just so it won't be silent. That's an extrovert thing to do. Introverts don't move like that. They don't think like that. They don't function like that. They don't just think, all right, I just have to start a conversation with anyone because talk, I need to talk. So, come on, dude. So there is a difference between an introvert and an extrovert. Introverts, they recharge their batteries by being alone. They need a lot more alone time than extroverts. Extroverts, they recharge by talking more, by constantly being around people. Being alone too long, it zaps their energy. Introverts, it's the opposite. So now I'm just sounding like a complete broken record, you guys. I know I am, but I really just kind of want to drive the point home here that there is a fundamental difference between introverts and extroverts. I mean, you have these obvious extroverts call themselves an introvert. Well, I'm a really introverted, perverted person, and no, you're not. And these same people saying that, it's like, oh man, you want to go to the bar? Oh, you want to go to the club? Oh, we got to talk. Dude, you're not an introvert. You're not. Knock it off. Anyway, that's all I want to say. I just had to get that out. I just had to get it out. All right. Until then, later, people.